is the Business of Reselling podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Oman. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 17 of the Business of Reselling podcast. This week's episode, I have a long list of ideas for podcast episodes. Every time I think of something it would be cool to do an episode about, or every time somebody gives me an idea, I write it down on the list, and then I kind of pick something that I'm really feeling like I want to talk about, or something that I think is important, in the current moment, and do a little deeper dive into it. But this week, just like nothing was really jumping out at me. I'm feeling not really a lack of motivation, but a bit like right now, reselling is like feeling kind of like a grind. We're struggling with sourcing inventory. I did a few episodes on sourcing, and a lot of the tactics that we've been trying to apply have had some less than stellar results. And it's just not flowing the way that it usually does. And so I was like, what do I do? What can I do to bring some excitement, some enthusiasm, some interest to this week's podcast episode? And I thought maybe it would just be kind of like, because I don't talk a lot about, specifically what we're doing in our business or how sales are going, or give any of those sort of recaps, or share numbers, although I like sharing numbers, but I haven't done a lot of that yet. So I thought, this week I'm just going to talk about what's going on, how I'm feeling, how we're feeling about the business. And I want to spend a few minutes at the end talking about my favorite nonprofit called the Binners Project, doing super important work in the Vancouver community. And so we'll get to that at the end. It's the most important part, so definitely stick around. So as I mentioned, sourcing inventory has been really challenging it was challenging throughout the pandemic. Things sort of did come in waves, but right now seems to be more of a struggle than I think we would expect. Although our sales are still pretty solid, which is great. We're selling lots of inventory. We're getting into like the nooks and crannies of our warehouse and bins and stuff that we always meant to get to later, or things we didn't process because we didn't know a lot about them and needed to do research. So like there's a lot of positive things happening with the business. We're cleaning up, we're getting organized. Both of us are kind of like spreaders. Like we just like, like when we go travel to hotels and stuff, like we just like spread our clothes all over the room, and like that kind of like trickles into the business a little bit. And so we try to keep things, pretty tidy, but sometimes little pockets and corners of the warehouse get kind of out of hand. So we've been getting in there and cleaning up, and all of that stuff is great and it's positive and the sales are good. But what we need is some great inventory, and it has been a big challenge to get it. We've had a lot of leads fall through. We have dropped door hangers on hundreds of doorsteps over the past few months, gotten a few leads from that, but just we don't seem to be gaining any momentum with our sourcing. And that is really frustrating. I still think sourcing is going to get a lot better. I think as people really settle into kind of withdrawing maybe some of their spending due to some of the issues with the economy, that they may start selling off items that they no longer need, or items that are just taking up space, because they may need to use the money for other things. So I think sourcing is going to see a big improvement. But for us specifically right now, it's been a bit dry. So I started doing some things, like I started bidding in online auctions. I hadn't done that in a really long time. And I found a couple last week that were estate sales that were running online auctions kind of near where we live. And I was like, okay, I'm going to throw down at some bids on a whole bunch of stuff and see what I get. There was nothing super exciting, but there were a few lots that I definitely wanted. So I threw down some bids, what I thought would be fair to pay. And I ended up winning one lot, and it was 4 blow molds. Yeah. Plastic, like vintage plastic blow molds. And it's too bad they're not even Christmas themed. They're like animal themed. They're still cool. They're vintage. I'll be able to make money for them. I'm not sure if shipping them is feasible, or if we're going to have to sell them locally. But right now, like in my backyard, there's like this vintage like steamer trunk, and on top of it is like these 2 lions and a penguin and like a pig lying on its side, and it's just like It's cute, but there it is. We did go to a yard sale. They didn't have a lot left, but we got a couple of vintage lanterns, which we love selling for a super cheap price. So that was cool. Picked up a few other things, but it's kind of like dribs and drabs, just little things. So, and I think it frustrates Johan more than it frustrates me because I still see a ton of unlisted inventory in our warehouse. I see all these boxes of comic books. I see a million stamps, literally a million stamps. I see some die-cast cards that we haven't done. I mean, there's piles and piles of things that we could process, and we're slowly like working our way through some of that stuff. So I don't care because I always want to make space, but at the same time, you always need that exciting, fresh new inventory coming into your shop, or the buyers kind of start to trickle away if they don't see anything interesting coming in. If it looks like you're grinding, that's not very exciting for people who are visiting your store, whether it's for the first time or the 50th time. So we do need to get more inventory. But I've been fighting this feeling of kind of complacency about it, for the reasons that I just explained. Our sales are good. Life is easy. It's very easy to, it's a sunny day. Let's just take the dog to the park, or let's go on a walk. Let's hit up a happy hour. Kind of do those things that the business affords us, and then that are part of the reason why we have this business and why we work this way, is to enjoy that kind of freedom. But it also can kind of get you into this place of complacency where you kind of pull back and stop putting that extra effort in, getting out of your comfort zone, because things are kind of fine. And I think this is a place where I especially need to like really, take stock of what I'm thinking and start to place my energy in more productive places. And I think that's what I have to do is follow my own advice, walk the talk. The things that I've talked about on the podcast, do more of them. So I did spend a little bit of extra time on outreach last week, and we did see a few results from some of the follow-ups that I did. So we looks like we might have a new comic book consignment coming up, which is great. We have a few other leads. We're picking up some stuff actually for free next Friday, kind of an exchange where there's some valuable items, but this person also needs to get rid of things that I guess they can't take to the recycling themselves. So we're kind of going to go get the stuff and see what we can sell out of it and donate the rest. So we're going to be getting some things. And I'm sure it's going to come around, but I definitely need to be spending more time on that. I think also there's an aspect of shyness to kind of getting too forward and too vocal about asking people for stuff. I also don't want to seem pushy. I don't want to seem like a vulture. And so sometimes I get kind of nervous about going out there and saying like, hey, you said you had some things for sale. What are they? When can I come and get them? I don't want to sound like too pushy at all. So, yeah. So I guess that's kind of the struggle that I'm going through a little bit right now, and it's a problem because it's going to make it a lot harder to reach our goals. There's new estate sale companies, estate liquidators, and stuff that are sort of showing up in Vancouver, and starting to capture a little bit of market share. And like, I have to make sure that our brand stays, you know, out there and visible. And otherwise, these companies are going to take over. And honestly, like, we really want to buy a house next year. I know, in the face of these crazy rising interest rates and all of this stuff. And so it's really critical that, I especially stay focused on that goal, because housing is crazy expensive where we live. And we probably will end up moving away from Vancouver City. Right now, we live right in the heart of the city. Average price of a detached home here is $1.8 million. That's way out of reach for us. So we'll probably end up having to relocate if we do make this happen next year. But even then, it's a stretch. It's still a very expensive housing market. And even if the prices come down, the interest rates are going to be up. And so qualifying for financing is going to continue to be a challenge. And so the more cash that we have, the easier that's going to be. And even though our sales are good, they are going to slow down, especially if this recession takes hold. And so we need to have that hot high-end, super desirable inventory in our store so that our sales continue to stay at that strong level. So that's kind of what's going on in the business. Revenue is fine. I'm pretty pleased. The Black Friday sale is coming along well. By the time this podcast is published, pretty much everything in our store is going to be on sale, at least 10% off, up to 50% off. So we're doing 20% off model kits. I've got 50% off tons of old stock. I have 15 to 40% off vinyl and cassettes and CDs and DVDs and all that kind of stuff. It's got to go. We have things that have been sitting in the shop for months or even years, and it's really time that we move this inventory along. So I think this is going to be a really good sale. I'm excited. It's been going pretty well so far, and I have sort of those really hot categories: the model kits, the comic books, to put on sale this week, and I think it's going to do really well. So I'm pretty excited about that. I wanted to mention though. So I did spend a couple of episodes 15 and 16, talking about Black Friday sales, Cyber Monday, and holiday sales, and sort of how to maximize that and make your sales better. But I wanted to also mention what that brings in terms of some frustration in your business. When you drop prices, especially if you drop them drastically, it tends to bring in the low ballers. People who, I don't know exactly what the frame of mind is. Maybe they think, oh, they've discounted this by 40%. They must be desperate to get rid of it. And then they try to offer you even less than that, which can be super frustrating. I've had people trying to get 50% off my 50% off price, trying to bundle a whole bunch of things in my store to get like an additional 40% off my 40% off. I'm not desperate. I'm just trying to move inventory. I'm just trying to turn things over. And I'm really happy to give people a deal, but I don't want demands placed on me. This is the discount that I'm comfortable giving. Otherwise, I will keep it, And so you may find that if you're running discount sales in your business as well. But one of the things that I try to do to sort of minimize these types of interactions is, like, for example, when I do add best offer to my items, I try to set the auto decline threshold at about 60%. So everything below that just auto declines, and I never even get a notification that that offer was sent. There are some issues with auto decline when you have 6,000 listings and you're trying to add best offer, kind of strategically, but not to every listing. I sometimes end up being like, oh, I'm just going to set the threshold a little lower just so that I can edit more listings at once. And then also when I've done things like end and sell similar, which is a strategy that some people use to kind of boost, like get some fresh views on old listings. So if I end, say, 200 listings, select them all and go sell similar and relist those, I have found a small glitch where the best offer option stays on the listing, but the auto decline threshold is removed. So whereas I've previously set like decline at 60% of asking or whatever, that'll be gone. And so I'll start getting like $10 offers on $150 items and things like that. The other thing too is that it's not that simple of a process with as many listings as we have to take best offer off of everything, run the sale, and then put best offer back on. It's cumbersome, and so I don't do it. And so I might have an item that's 25% off, and that's as low as I'm willing to go. But somebody comes in and, they want to get like another 30% off my 25% off price. And then I have to deal with that. And then I get people saying, well, why do you have best offer on your listing then? And it's like, okay, yeah, I get where you're coming from, but it would take me a while to explain that. So I'm just not going to, and I will politely decline your offer. So if you're running Black Friday sales, especially the deeper discounts you go, you're going to get this kind of buyer coming to you probably more frequently than normal. And so it's just about having some patience with it. And it's okay. Everybody's trying to get a good deal, and I understand that. But I'm sticking to my my boundaries, which I've talked about in previous episodes, especially I think episode 3, which is the one about how to say no. So if you're curious about that, go back to episode 3 and check it out. Yeah, so that's kind of what's going on in my business. I'm so curious what's going on in yours. I want to know if you're running any Black Friday sales. Are you running any promotions right now? What kind of actions have you taken and what have the results of those actions been? I'm curious to know. Not because I want to draw conclusions about how sales are going on eBay, but I always am interested in seeing what's working for people and how everybody's experiences are on the platform so I can tailor episodes to suit what you're looking for. So let me know. Um, okay, so I just want to get into the most important part of today, which is to talk about the Binners Project. The Binners Project doesn't know this yet, but they are my favorite nonprofit. They're going to find out because they're having a fundraising event this week, and it's the first in-person event of theirs that I've been able to attend. Obviously, lots of things were canceled due to COVID, and then the in-person events that they've had, I've always have a scheduling conflict with them. So this is the first one that I actually get to go to. And Binners Project is trying to raise $35,000 for this particular fundraiser. So let me tell you a bit about what Binners Project is. I can't explain it better than them, so I'm just going to take this right off of their website, which is binnersproject.org. Binners Project is a group of waste pickers aided by support staff dedicated to improving their economic opportunities and reducing the stigma they face as informal recyclable collectors. Binners are among one of the most marginalized groups in urban areas. Their livelihoods stem from refunds received from used containers collected from bins. Binners positively contribute to our environment by diverting a considerable amount of waste from landfills. Now, if you're like me, one of the reasons you do what you do might be because you're pretty passionate about keeping things from getting thrown away. And I maybe your city's like this. I don't know. Vancouver is, from my observation, a pretty wasteful culture. People throw away incredible things all the time, and I am just fascinated with um, getting access to those things before they're discarded so that we can find people who will enjoy them and we get the environmental benefit of reusing those items. And this is exactly in alignment with what the Binners Project does. I don't know if you've been to like an outdoor event, a parade, a festival, something like that, but even where there are great recycling facilities and bins available for people to properly sort the waste that's produced at these events, people don't do it. They still drop their cans on the ground. They put plastic in the metals bin. They throw food in the glass bin, and then it contaminates and makes it harder to recycle. Like people just don't think about how to properly sort their waste. And same goes in like apartment buildings. If you live in an apartment building, like there's always stuff in the wrong container in the recycling room. And so one of the ways that the Binners Project generates revenue is binners get hired to go and work in the apartment building and make sure that the waste and recycling is properly sorted into the correct bins so that when it gets to the facility, they can actually recycle it in the way that they are mandated to do. And the same thing at events, making sure that all of the waste is put in the appropriate containers, again, so it can get through the recycling process. Because what a lot of people don't realize is that if recycling is contaminated, when it gets to the processing facilities, they can't effectively recycle all of the material. So if like there's too much food on, in glass or plastic containers, for example, if they're not rinsed, that can be problematic. If plastic is mixed with glass, that's problematic. If yard waste is mixed with, I don't know, plastic or cans or something, it just makes it so much harder for those facilities to do what they do. And so it's so important that we as consumers, if we're going to do the recycling, that we start the process out properly, but people just don't do it. And Binners Project is, I think, trying to help with that. I'm going to venture a guess. This is part of the mandate. so that things actually do get recycled. But even more than that, even more importantly than that, um, helping people recognize the social and community importance that binners and dumpster divers have, especially in urban areas, keeping things out of landfill, making money from the trash. There is money to be made there all the time in all kinds of things. Um, there's a skill to doing it well. And I think a lot of people don't respect that. And so I love what this organization does. I love their social mandate. I love the environmental mandate. I think it's perfectly aligned with our business and our desire to keep things out of the landfill as well. And so I've been supporting them in very small ways over the past couple of years, but I'm really looking forward to stepping that up. I think they deserve a lot more. I would love to donate some of my time to supporting them, and definitely more of my money. So I have made a donation to help them with their $35,000 fundraising goal. And if you're interested in checking out more about what they do and potentially making a donation to help them out, binnersproject.org is their website, and binnersproject.org/donate, I believe, is the direct link to their donation page. So I know it's not Giving Tuesday, that's next week. So I'm going to loop back to this after their fundraising event that I'm going to on Thursday with a little recap of that. I'm sure I'm going to learn a whole bunch more about what they do now that I'm finally able to meet people from that organization in person. So I'm excited to loop back and let you know if they reach their fundraising goal, and tell you a little bit more about them. So that brings me to the conclusion of this week's episode. A bit rambly. I hope not. I hope you still found it interesting. I still have a long list of really exciting topics, research-based stuff that I definitely will be bringing to you in the coming weeks. So your call to action this week is to think about whether you will be giving on Giving Tuesday. And if you are going to be giving, who are you going to be giving to? Throw down a link to your favorite charity or nonprofit in the comments on YouTube, or tag me on Instagram with their name and mine, storage_warriors, and tell me why you support them. That's what I'm all about this week. All right, so don't forget to hit the like button on YouTube, leave a comment, and subscribe to the podcast to listen anytime you want, anywhere you get your podcasts at businessofreselling.com. We will see you next week. Thanks so much for listening.